Look, there's no question right now that in the sustainability world, there are a few headwinds. There's stuff that's going on coming out of the US with policy change, and we've also seen the EU starting to rein back on some of their own compliance commitments around the CSRD and the like. What does that mean for sustainability? In my view, actually not a lot. The fundamentals have not changed. The fundamentals of climate change is it's still going on, there are still big risks there. Whether you have to report on them is really neither here nor there. Investors still want to know climate risk is finance risk. They want to know what you're doing about those things. So the imperative, both from the business perspective and the investment perspective, has not really changed. Yes, there's going to be some policy shift, and that might affect some of the regulatory compliance you have to do, but the fundamentals about what you're doing won't change. And if you think about what you're being asked to report, you're only being asked to report because you're being asked to change what you're doing. If you don't change, you're still at risk because the fundamentals don't change. What I'm seeing is most governments are not deprioritizing ESG or sustainability. Like I say, some of the rhetoric coming out of the US is slightly different, but again, the fundamentals don't change. From a business perspective, there are going to be some short-term commercial opportunities to potentially do some deprioritization. That doesn't take away the fundamentals of the risk you face, and it doesn't take away the long-term challenges that the businesses will face in this environment. The fundamentals are not going away. The risk for a business that chooses to deprioritize sustainability is that when this comes back onto the agenda, and it will, because the fundamentals aren't changing, things will change, you will be at a competitive disadvantage if you have not kept up with those who are continuing to adapt and transition. So the gap between you and others will get worse, and that will take time to catch up or potentially leave you with massive competitive disadvantage down the track. In terms of sustainability fatigue, what I have been seeing is that a lot of companies were actually getting quite a lot of fatigue from dealing with the compliance agenda, from dealing with the regulatory reporting that they were being asked to do and having to do. And to be honest, they weren't seeing that much value from. Some of the lifting of some of this compliance I actually think is a good thing and a positive thing, because it will allow companies to redeploy budget away from compliance, which they see as a cost, back into more value-adding, transition-related type activities. So what I'm seeing right now is an opportunity to actually move forward faster, because we can focus on the things that really matter to the business, rather than just complying with the regulation where they may see less relevance to themselves. So actually, I think what's going on right now potentially is a catalyst to get back into thinking about sustainability from a strategic and a risk perspective, rather than through a compliance lens. Going forward, companies should continue to focus on what really matters, look at the fundamentals, understand the risks and the opportunities of what they're doing, but they're also look at what new emerging issues are coming out. So we've got things like the Task Force on Nature-Related Financial Disclosure, the TNFD, biodiversity, nature getting much more visibility. It's not a new issue, it's got more visibility, so focus on what's your business's relationship with nature, what are your impacts, what are your dependencies, start thinking about that. But also look at what new is emerging. Your business, the decision-making you're making, is based on good data. You always will have good data to underpin your decision-making and your reporting. Think about the role of AI in how you can get more data, better data, more reliable data, more frequently, so you can actually manage, respond, monitor, and set strategic direction going forward. And for those who are not quite sure where to start or are still a bit hesitant on where they're going to go and how to begin on their ESG journey, I would give two pieces of advice. One is make sure you engage all your stakeholders, particularly your employees in your own organizations, to make sure they understand what you're doing. And the second thing is make sure you find your business case. Make sure you understand what is the commercial rationale for your business, your sustainability strategy, because it needs to be both business relevant and sustainability relevant. And that way you continue to run a thriving, growing company, which is doing the right things by the environment and the people at the same time.